What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Armchair GM show. My name is Tigo. That to my left, you're my right. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Looked like your right arm to me.
Right? Yeah, but it's all flipped and all that stuff. Is GreenBean. Welcome to the Armchair GM show. We're very excited to have you guys this week because we got a moderate amount of things to talk about, but there's a lot of exciting draft news and draft changes and all of that stuff. And we're going to dive into all of that today. But before we get into that, GreenBean, how are you doing this wonderful Wednesday evening?
Tigo, I am doing very well. I look forward to getting this time with you. I look forward to live streams with the Jets chat, the Jets fan chat. And I'm a little disappointed today. We found out that a guy that I was really liking as an option at wide receiver signed elsewhere. So I'm a little disappointed. But other than that, I think I'm in a pretty damn good mood, man. I'm excited to talk some Jets, free agency, draft, and all that stuff with my friend Tigo.
Absolutely. And there hasn't been, and I think that this is kind of a good thing, right? Which is, there hasn't been a ton of super crazy news and rumors, which is nice. Because the last couple of years, we've seen that the New York Jets have kind of dominated the headlines in the offseason.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, 3 first-round picks, trading up to go get not being the team that traded down in the Zach Wilson draft year. And so there's been a lot of years of us just kind of being one of the main talked about teams. And there's something nice about kind of having a chillaxed off season where it's just we're just kind of doing business quickly and quietly and efficiently. And there's something nice about that. I do miss the big splashes. It'd be nice if there was something to really get excited about, but it's a new staff evaluating. What are your thoughts on that front? Did you want the Jets to be more exciting this offseason? Do you like the direction they're going in and being more low key? What's your overall opinion of this just boring offseason?
Yeah. I know you finally got to that word that we don't want to talk about.
Because and I don't mean that in a bad thing.
No, I get it.
You know what I mean?
But here's the thing. So look, I'm being a Jets fan, I'm always up for the excitement because that's our normal operating default setting. It's just when you turn on your computer, it does a like you expect it. If it doesn't happen, it's not to say it's not, it's not better that it doesn't, but whatever. It's you're used to it. So I'm always up for, the Jets. Oh my God, the Jets made a trade for Jamar Chase. Yay! I'm always up for that. Same. But I must admit, and we've talked about this a couple times in different variations in the past couple weeks, I think that it might be a good thing. It's not that it's only boring. It is by comparison, straight up. This is everybody's what happened? But there were a few days, we signed 3 defensive tackles in one day, and we got Justin Fields and the cornerback and all this kind of stuff. It all kind of happened very, there were bursts. But overall, they're doing something which is very deliberate and very specific, which is they are staying out of the big game pool, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not going and trying to lock up a $40 million edge rusher or, anybody like that. What they're doing is they're making the tough decisions. The biggest news is we let Aaron Rodgers go. We let Devontae Adams go. We let C.J. Mosley go. These are stalwart Jets, Hall of Fame level type of guys, right? And they're no longer here. So what they've done in response to that is they've made a conscious effort to go younger, 24, 25, 26. Pretty much everybody they brought in is right there. Yep. And they're doing something that's called taking flyers on guys, right? So, the cornerback, Brandon Stevens, they gave him a 3-year contract. It's really a 2-year contract. Justin Fields got a 2-year contract, but then there's lots of 1 year here, 1 year there. And the logic behind that is this. Look, we need to fill holes. You gotta field a team this year. Mm-hmm. And you do it with young guys that you like and that you think, hey, maybe we can develop this guy. So in the event you know, look, if he's playing well, you got an inside track on negotiating a longer term contract. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. He leaves. Joe Douglas did this early on as well. The problem was he wasn't always doing it with young guys. He was doing it with everybody. So if they do leave, they might just, especially if they play well and or whatever, you get, they factor into the comp pick formula. And then a couple of the guys, like, look, if you find if you bring in 6 or 7 guys and 3 stick, you've effectively filled 3 holes this year. And then going into next year, you got 3 less holes. You know what I mean? If it's at defensive tackle, if one's at safety and another one is at tight end or whatever before the draft, that is, you've done a great job, and that's what I think they're doing. And I think it's actually smart. And Tigo, it's kind of the idea that the Jets not shooting for the trophy of offseason champ. We've done it many, many times. Mm-hmm. Maybe, just maybe, that this idea of not doing that can be the right way to go. Who knew?
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things that you mentioned was actually like, I'm a little upset because I was going to mention it, but like you said it way more eloquently than I would have said it, which is exactly what you were saying is Joe Douglas, when he was operating this way at the beginning, right? When we still had like Sam and things like that, he would bring in 7, 8 guys in free agency, not all of them young guys, which I think is something that's different with obviously what Moogs is doing. He's actively getting younger. He would just bring in a bunch of guys on these 1-year deals with the idea of, like, maybe this guy sticks, maybe this guy doesn't stick, and we'll see what happens. And some of them did stick. And just like you said, you operate on this basis of you've got 10 holes. You can't fill all 10 holes with starting level players in free agency. That's what the draft is for. But you can take flyers on guys. You can bank on some athleticism and see, like, maybe I can be the one that fixes that player. How many players do we see have a turnaround at the end of their career? Like, And we have like a beautiful example of that on the New York Jets right now in Quincy Williams. We took a flyer on Quincy Williams. He was on Jacksonville's practice squad, and we saw something, claimed him. Year 1 was a little bit rough. Year 2, he blows up and he gets the contract that he gets, and now he's a active member of this football team that we're actively
All-Pro. Tigo,
was an All-Pro, and now we're actively trying to figure out how we're going to fit all of these guys under the cap situation. And that's what you kind of have to look at this offseason with guys like Stone Smart and Inati and Andre Sisco and Brandon Stevens. And it's just like, look, at the beginning, we might not like what we've seen in the past of these guys, but we have to wait and see what this team can do. We have to see, like, not this team, but what this coaching staff can do. We learned very quickly from the previous regime, if you're a linebacker and you want to revive your career, come to New York Jets. Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to make you an All-Pro. Because was anybody after the first 2 years of C.J. Mosley banking on back-to-back All-Pro years of C.J. Mosley? Was anybody? Because that's what we got from C.J. Mosley.
Yeah.
On the back half of his career after he had lost the step. Quincy Williams was on a practice squad. Did anybody bank on an All-Pro season? Same thing with Jamie and Sherwood coming off of the bench because CJ gets hurt. So I'm with you. I'm like, look, did I want to go and make big swings? Yes. Like at the beginning of the offseason, I guess, part of the minority where I believed that this football team still had enough like talent around it where we could, with the right moves, we can make a push, we can make a swing. And we're not doing those things, and it's not a bad thing. But you did mention something, GreenBean.
What's that?
Edge rusher's getting paid $40 million. Obviously, we saw that Myles Garrett got $40 million per year with the Cleveland Browns. And we just now saw, just like a couple of minutes ago, Danielle Hunter agrees to a 1-year extension with the Houston Texans, putting him at $35 million a year, the second highest edge rusher in the NFL. It's crazy. What is going on with the cap? Like, what is going on with these salaries?
It's not real. It's just that simple, dude. It's not real.
Like, this is an insane amount of money that's being thrown around, right? Like, and I get it. Cap goes up, player gets up, like, and all of those things. And I love it. Like, I love seeing players get paid, but I still can't. And like, this isn't like, I just like, I think you were mentioning it before. It's just like Klecko and like the greats of the past of the New York Jets, like, were better than a lot of these guys.
Dude, he's got 12 sacks and 45 tackles. And now he's a $35 million a year edge rusher. And look, taking nothing away, he's good. He impacts the game more than just those stats. You know, the numbers aren't always everything, right? There's pressures, there's hurries, there's all kinds of stuff. He also had a forced fumble. And so there's stuff. But like when you look at, he's 12 sacks. Guys like Gastineau and Klecko have had numerous years that they broke 20. Yeah. And in a game less, you know what I mean? I think Klecko was even there when there was 14 games. He might have been at the tail end of the 14 game thing. So, but like you look at that guy, you know, those guys, you know, they're getting 21 sacks, 22 sacks, and they're looked at as like, you know what I mean? Like Gastineau, people look at him, they pay more attention to like his antics, and it's like, dude, let's make something very, very clear. He was elite, like among the greatest players to ever step on the field at edge. And it's like, again, 12 sacks is now elite. Even Myles Garrett, who's an absolute animal, 14 sacks the last 2 years, 16 sacks before that. Now, it's great, but that's what we're talking about. And again, 44 tackles, that kind of a thing. Gastineau, Klecko, they would have 60 tackles and 20 sacks. And they're looked at as, you know, there's no comparison.
Like, to me, there's only one, like when, and my thing is like you said, there's no disrespect to like Myles Garrett. He's a stud. Or like Danielle Hunter. He's a stud.
Right.
But like when I look at it and I go, dude, you're getting top of the line. Like a couple of years ago, $35 million got you a top 10 quarterback. Like, and not like a couple years ago as in like 10 years ago. No, like 3 or 4 years ago, you could get a top 10 quarterback for $35 million. Now, if the number doesn't begin with a 5, you can't get one of those guys. And like, I think my thing is always going to come back to, when it comes to those things, is always going to come back to like TJ Watt should always kind of be the highest paid. Like, didn't he have like a 20 sack season like last year?
Yeah. Now in his, actually he broke the,
no, I'm sorry. It was he had 11 and a half.
Wasn't it 22 sacks? And he did that in 17 games though.
No, I don't think so. I think it was in 2021.
All right. Take a look at JJ Watt's stats.
I'm looking it up right now. It was in 15 games. He missed a game. He did 22 and a half sacks in 15 games.
Crazy.
Like that's insane.
It is.
But it's just like I think it's crazy, and obviously like inflation, and I just kind of wanted to like mention just a little bit because it's like funny, but like, dude, NFL money's getting wild.
Yeah.
It's getting crazy. We're gonna have to start, and I think GM should do this. I think that we're gonna have to start operating like the NHL salary cap does, because they operate in terms of percentage of the cap. So if like you're a first line center, you're going to make X percentage of whatever the current cap is. That's what you're going to get. It's not a number. It's a percentage of the cap, because the cap goes up every year. And so cap goes up to whatever the number, 100 million. I think it's at 89 right now. So it's like 90. Okay. You're going to get 13% of the cap. That's what you
the
get.
cap is at 250 million or something. What do you mean 89 million?
No. I'm talking about in the NHL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like in the NHL, they don't operate in terms of like specific numbers. It's in terms of like percentages. And so like if the cap is in that 90s, which I believe it's what it's going to be next year, you're going to get paid. I think for NFL teams, you're going to have to start operating like that, because I look at what the Bengals have done recently, and I don't see how that's sustainable. I think when they signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to legitimately 50% of their cap, they shut the door on them winning a Super Bowl. You can't build. You have 3 of 53 taking up 50% of your cap. You can't operate a football team like that.
No, I agree. So let's segue real quick. We got Jack Skellington, the famous Jack Skellington, checking in, Tigo. Heard the Jets are interested in Dart. Thoughts? Like, so let me ask you.
Yep.
First off, is it smoke screen? Do you see the Jets really? But look, you bring in Justin Fields, you got Tyrod Taylor, we have Jordan Travis. That's a very specific batch. They all have that similar skill set. A little bit more athletic. The escapability's there, the running prowess is there, the threat. Jackson Dart, what do you think of that?
I think here's the thing with both, like, because obviously Jack Skellington brings up Dart, and I don't want to just talk about Dart because I think there's two names that are going to be in this conversation from now until April, which is going to be Jackson Dart and then Milrow, right? Like, because we're going to have this conversation about.
I think we'll add that to
this.
Like
Great.
I like
Dart
it.
and Milrow, and you fall into this weird limbo with both of these guys where, let me be like up front. I don't think either one of them has a first round grade. Like, in my evaluations, I don't have a first round grade on either one of those guys. I have a low second, high third round grade on both of those guys. But we know how quarterback value inflates a player's projection. And so now you're having a conversation with either one of those guys because I think you're out of the reach of a guy like Cam Ward, who would be the only quarterback that I would take in this class. And the only
Which one would be the only one?
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward.
I wouldn't do I don't think you can get into bed with Deion. I like Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. You can't get into bed with Deion. You just can't do it, especially as a new head coach, like a rookie first-time head coach. Like, I just wouldn't do it. But that being said, you're in this weird limbo where you're too high to take either one of those guys at 7. Like, because like the fan base would riot. Like, we would march on One Jets Drive the very next day with like tikis and pitchforks and all of that stuff, right? But you're too low at 42 to get those guys, right? And so the only way that you can get them is you either trade back from 7, which I think a lot of us want, is to trade back from 7. I know I'm on that camp. Or is to trade back into the first, which I don't think a lot of us want. So it's a weird thing, but I think where there's smoke, there's fire. We pulled Milrow aside at the combine to do work with him one-on-one. Before he was employed by the Jets, what's his name? I forget his name. Who am I thinking of? The guy who helped us hire Moogs and Glenn from the Vikings.
Tannenbaum?
No, the other one.
Oh, Spielman. He's
Spielman. There it is. He's our dude. His face. That Spielman, before he was employed by the New York Jets, at the Senior Bowl, ranted and raved about Jackson Dart. And so, like, I think, like, and Rich Cimini today tweeted that, like, hey, like, Jackson Dart is in play for the New York Jets. Like, they're a fan of his. Like just because they signed Justin Fields doesn't mean they're done with the quarterback position. And so if I'm going to be honest, I'm scared because I don't want either one of those quarterbacks. Like, I don't want a quarterback in this draft. I think I've made that very, very clear. Wait until 2026. That's what I think the plan should be. But I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think this staff might like those guys, like, especially because, like, Milrow is a freak athlete.
He's a
howitzer of an arm. Just ran a 4.37 at his pro day. Like, that's elite athleticism.
Well, let me say this though too. So the idea, because I actually am with you. I do like Jalen Milrow. I like him more than I like Dart. I see what people see. You know, he's sloppy, he's inconsistent, there's all that sort of stuff going on. But here's the logic behind it, is that this is a year where you do have Tyrod Taylor in the house. Mm-hmm. This is a year when you do plan to start Justin Fields. So you got Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor here. Tanner Engstrand coming from Detroit, where Ben Johnson, Engstrand, who's the quarterback? I like him. The quarterback coach up there. Played quarterback for the Jets. It's just escaping me.
I can see his face. I don't remember.
Yeah, what's his name? Why can't I remember, Tony the GM? Oh my God, it's killing me. All right, it'll come to me. They traded for Goff. They
Mark Brunell.
Brunell, right. So thank you. They traded Matt Stafford to the Rams. They got 2 first-round picks and Jared Goff. Jared Goff was a throw-in, okay? The thought behind everything was that they'll bring Jared Goff in, they'll take a chance, they'll see what he's worth, but he's a placeholder. Now they have 2 first-round picks in 2 consecutive years. They can do whatever they need to do to go up and get their quarterback. What they did instead was they developed the living shit out of him to the tune of 4,800 yards last year, or 46 or 48, and like 40-plus touchdowns, 47 touchdowns or something like that. Tanner Engstrand comes from that. You know what I mean? So the idea, it's like, hey, you give me an athletic quarterback and I'm going to be able to do, especially when there's no pressure to start right away. I don't need to put him out there. I can work on this guy. They might believe I want my guy here now. So I have Justin Fields and Jalen Milroe going into next year. And if it's Jackson Dart, same philosophy, although I think Milroe would be a better swing, like that more, I don't want to say upside because Dart has it too, but I think like that real kind of, if you do develop Jalen Milroe, you're looking at a guy with everything that you want. You know what I mean? Yeah. In an NFL quarterback. So the idea, like, look, let's just get started. We got 3 quarterbacks here. All of them could play for us right now. 1 kid we want to develop, Jordan Travis. It is what it is. We're not really that interested in him. And, so having that like kind of year jump on the whole thing, I don't know. Would I do it? Probably not. I like next year's quarterback class too, at least the potential, but it's a year away. Anything can happen. Arch Manning might stay in school another year. You just never know. So if they do that, if Milroe's sitting there with their 2nd-round pick, or he's 2 picks away and they're like, hey, we'll throw you a 6 to jump up 2 spots in the 2nd, and they do it, am I going to be livid? Probably not. I still think we should get a player that could impact now and, that whole thing. But I do get it from a certain vantage point, Tigo. JJ Hamza says you like Start as well. So he's on the – you know what I'm learning about JJ Hamza? We get along real well, but we disagree on, I think, about 99 out of every 100 topics. It's weird. We go, I like this guy. Oh, I like this guy. And it goes back and forth. It's very consistent. It's crazy. Not to say I'm right, even though I usually am. What?
Sometimes you find your opposite out there, and it just seems.
Yeah, I thought it was you.
Hamza.
I thought it was you for me.
Well, we agree on some things. We just don't agree on the show.
We've been agreeing a lot more lately. I don't know if it's okay.
I don't know if it's let's just get to the season. We didn't agree on the Justin Fields thing, so there's one. Hey, that was recent. But I do think that if you do have a guy like, I think there is a benefit if you are looking at quarterback in this year's draft class, right? And you're saying, we're going to take a guy in this year's draft class. I think one of the things that you need to be ready to do if you're like Glenn and Moogs is I think you're going to need to be able to, no matter what, I think you need to be like commit to Justin Fields for the next 2 years. Like, forget the noise, forget the record, forget what's happening.
Unless he sucks real bad.
No, I think even if that's the case, because I think you need to commit to Justin Fields for the next 2 years. Because what we're talking about in getting a quarterback, we're whether it's Dart, whether it's Milroe, and I would take Milroe over Dart because of the upside swing. Yes. Both of those guys need to sit. Like, regardless of what's happening.
No doubt. I agree with that.
And so that's why you have Tyrod Taylor this year, right? And that's a great thing is, okay, Justin Fields isn't doing all that great. Cool. Tyrod can step in. But the problem is year 2. And I think you and I both agree, like, if you're going to take a guy this year, take Milroe because he has a much higher upside.
JJ Hamza says here he doesn't want Milroe.
See, it's the opposite. You found your opposite out
hilarious. I love it. I'm loving you more and more every day, JJ. Well, let me say this though too. All right, so
and that's what I was just going to say is like when you're looking at a guy like Milroe, who like is the ultimate experiment project quarterback. In a perfect world, you want him to sit 2 years. Like you want to give him the Jordan Love treatment. just as long as you can keep him redshirted in the back, not touching the ball except for preseason and taking snaps in practice, like that's what you should want to do. And so, yeah, it's a weird thing because I don't want to do that. Even though I like Milroe as a project, I don't want to commit to Fields for 2 years.
Right.
But I think you would have to.
But you do get it. Like, you can see the plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, would I do it? Maybe not. But I can see the plan. And a lot of times, especially where the Jets are concerned, that's really all I'm asking for sometimes. It's like for so long, you couldn't even see what our GM's plan was. Like, wait a minute. What are you doing? Why would you do that? Why did you take that guy? Why did you cut? Like, you just don't know what the plan is. And that is when it gets really, look, we haven't been very good for a very long time, right? We're very, but the butt of jokes and all this kind of stuff. Joe Douglas at least took it and made it so, okay, you might not like the guys and maybe this is this and you wouldn't have done that. But overall, you could see what he was trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? So that was at least refreshing, but it's time that we do this. And then when we bring players in, you have something very, very important. You have a coaching staff that can develop, maximize talent, and game plan around their players' strengths, not need to force feed players. They need this type of player in order to be successful. I hate that shit. Sam Aiken checking in, Tigo, and he says, you really do not know Deion. This is overblown. And I see some stuff. What exactly is Deion doing and all? What's going on with Deion? We're talking about Deion Sanders. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, my thing is like Shedeur Sanders, like, is Deion's kid. And like, dude, you can see the writing on the wall. Like, let's not act like Deion is like, this isn't me like trying to come at Deion like the human, but like Deion the coach, Deion the father. Like, you really think that he's not going to come out and defend his kid incredibly publicly?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, especially because there was a huge narrative that they have done an incredible job of just killing, which is Shedeur Sanders has never not been coached by his father.
Right.
Never done it ever. Not once. His father has literally coached him at every single level. And
so he's going to be around a lot. He's going to be calling dad. He's going to disagree with Tanner Engstrand.
And it's not even doing all that. Shedeur has a podcast that he does regularly. He's not going to stop for all of that stuff. So, like, it's not... If we just got away from the drama and all of the stuff that is Aaron Rodgers, cool. I get it. And I'm not anti, like, go do what you got to do, right? But for a fact, especially with all of the stuff that came out during the combine and all of those meetings, and apparently they didn't go well because people thought he kind of came off with a little bit too much of an ego. And it's just like, dude, if he's doing that at the combine, what happens when he comes in and he's not doing well and immediately the boo birds start flying and he starts like doing what Malik Neighbors did last year? At his first opportunity to speak publicly in front of the nation, he grabbed Dable and just threw him under the bus. He's like, don't ask me, ask the coach. He sucks. Like, basically just said that in the national, and it was a talking point for a week. And I just don't believe that Shedeur is going to have any more decorum when it comes to talking to someone that's a head coach that's not his father. And if you're Aaron Glenn,
but what happened specifically?
What do you mean?
Like, but everybody's talking about it. So, like, what did he do? I saw the interview where he said, I didn't say where I want him to go. There's just a few teams that I don't want him to go to, that he's not going to play for. And they said, it's funny. They asked him, they said, well, do you think like that you guys are aligned? Like, would he listen to you? And he goes, who, my son? Like, what do you mean? Is he going to listen to me? I'm fucking Deion Sanders.
But that's my point. Is like, you're already seeing that now.
Uh-huh.
Like, dude, you haven't thrown a single NFL snap. The only reason you played at Colorado was because your dad was the coach. Because, like, let's be real. Like, he wouldn't have gotten those D1 offers that, like, if it wasn't for his dad, right? And so now you're looking, and again, I like him as a prospect, but you're looking at this. I think there's a lot of baggage that comes with Shedeur.
Yeah. No, I agree. And especially coming off of the Aaron Rodgers thing. It's different, but it's like, can we just calm it all down here? Like, let's get the Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, 3 games in 10 days. Like, let's get all that out of here. Let's get the podcast. Let's get Diana Rossini over focusing on somebody else for a little while. And let's build a damn team. And let's earn primetime spots and accolades and all that kind of shit. We don't need to anything that goes on here to be dissected to the nth degree. I'm just so sick of it. Like, I really am. Now, Rico the Puff says, you're basically saying teach an athlete the sport of football. That is absolutely not what we're saying. Going from the college game to the NFL game. I mean, Rico, can we really deny that there's a significant difference between the two? Like, there are players that dominate in college and come into the NFL and they never have they never live up to the hype. Look at like a guy like Vernon Golston, bring him up. Dude, he was dominant in college. Tim Tebow was great in college. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. All these guys that you draft in the first round. It's like so many of them never amount to anything. Let's just do this. Let's do what draft? 2022 NFL draft, Tigo, okay? That's enough time. All right, let's just take a look at the first round real quick for Rico. It's called development, Rico, and I know you know that. But it's like especially when you're talking about a quarterback, these are young guys. These are 19 years old, 21 years old. These are kids. And they're still developing. Like, to be able to bring them in and develop them, like they have the raw skill set. I mean, look at all these guys. Look at Ryan Leaf, 2nd overall pick. Rick Myers, 2nd overall pick. Tim Couch, 1st overall pick. The guy was a stud. Comes into the NFL, can't do it. It's faster, it's bigger, it's stronger, it's harder. Everything is different. So it's like they reached their cap. So if you take that time and develop somebody and prepare them for this. Oh, hold on. I got to get us over to here. Hold on. So let's take a look at the 2022 NFL draft, Tigo. We'll see so Trayvon Walker, the number 1 overall pick, which was silly. And they bought into that late push hype. All the teams put out this smoke screen, probably led by the Lions, quite frankly. And they bought into it. Now, Trayvon Walker has come around the corner. He's a very good player. You know what I mean? Yep. But he's not Aiden Hutchinson. You know what I mean? Let's shoot straight. And everybody knew it, but Jacksonville. Yeah.
He's not even Kayvon Thibodeau or Jermaine Johnson or even George.
I mean, he had a good 2 years. But anyway, Aiden Hutchinson, stud. Derek Stingley, stud. Sauce Gardner, stud. Kayvon Thibodeau, stud. Let's say. Ekwonu, not yet.
He's getting there.
Very close to a bust.
So close.
Drake London he's very, very good. Charles Cross, I haven't kept up with him.
Doing very well.
Garrett Wilson, stud. Chris Olave, outside of the concussion, stud. Jameson Williams, gambling and all kinds of other shit. But he was considered, if he had the injury, remember, Tigo?
Yeah.
And without
broken
that
leg
injury,
or something like that?
Without that injury, he's wide receiver 1, very possibly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a lot of talk that he was wide receiver 1 if his injury wasn't a thing.
Jordan Davis, stud. Kyle Hamilton, stud. Kenyon Green, he's out there in free agency right now. Nobody signed him yet.
Is he a free agent? I thought he got traded.
Let me see.
I think the Texans just traded.
Let me see.
I think they just traded him.
Kenyon Green, I thought he was a free agent. Revival with the Eagles. Let me see.
He got traded to the Eagles. That's what it was. He got traded.
Okay, so he got traded.
But he had to get traded to offensive line rehab.
This is a really good draft, by the way. Jahan Dotson was traded to the Eagles from the Commanders.
Yep.
Did okay. He had his moments, but he's playing. He's in a beautiful situation. He's 3 under under Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So, but then you got Zion Johnson. We really liked him coming out. Don't remember. Treylon Burks is a straight-up bust. Kenny Pickett, straight-up bust. Trevor Penning, I'm not so sure. Trent McDuffie. Quay Walker, he's doing okay. Quay Walker. Kyrie Elam, the Bills
traded him.
Yeah, they just traded him for chump change. Nothing.
Yeah, because he wasn't working out for them.
Yeah. So Tyler said, here's three studs, obviously Jermaine Johnson. But all right, Devin Lloyd, Devontae Watt, Cole Strange, who was a 4th-round pick they took in the first, doing okay. George Karlaftis doing very well. This is actually a very good draft.
Yeah.
Lewis Seen already cut and signed with the Bills last year.
Yep.
Point being, you remember Treylon Burks? He's a good one to focus on. Where is he?
Right there, 18.
There he is. He's a bust. He was the 18th overall pick in the draft. You think it's because he doesn't know the game of football?
It's injuries.
And he can't. It's too much. JJ Hamza checking in. Anyway, that's the point. I wouldn't chase a quarterback this season. He would have to fall in our lap. I really want Alar. Sorry, I know. There's another one. And look, I'm going to watch Alar this season. I know Tony the GM likes him too. Jeremy likes him. I do not like him. I see bust all over that guy. But let's see what he does this year. It was a wise move, I think, staying in the in the college ranks. And we'll see what he does. We'll see what he does this year. But yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same page. But if they did it, if they got Jalen, I think Jalen Milroe is going to squeak into the first, as I do Jackson Dart. I think we're going to have a 4 quarterback first round.
I don't know if Jackson Dart sneaks in. I think that's a lot of smoke. But after Milroe runs a 4.37, I don't see him making it past the Steelers. If I'm just being honest. The Steelers need a succession plan. It looks like they're the most likely target for where Aaron Rodgers is going to go. And if you're going to go Aaron Rodgers, you might as well, you just traded for DK. You've got a good wide receiver room. You can retool the offensive line in later parts of the draft. There's very clearly a plan forward for them. And I think that you have a succession plan in place. And I think Milroe makes a ton of sense for them. Yeah, that makes sense. So, but I hear you, JJ Hamza. It's if rather than even trading up at all for one, if he's there, we'll consider it. But I'm telling you, this year, I really am a big fan of, the first 2 picks being offense, maybe even the first 3. I would love to see, that wide receiver. If it's Ty Warren, tight end, that's fine. But then in the second round, I'd love to see the tight end if we go wide receiver. There'll be some wide receivers there too. I really think you gotta bolster that. And then in the third, I'm really looking at my right tackle. That's what I'm looking for in this draft. We'll see how they do. I think if you flip your first and your third, and that's how I'm looking at it. I think
so. You grab a tackle in the first, and then
I didn't want to tackle in the first leading into this at all, but we're living in a post Justin Fields free agency signing. And I think that we know what he struggles with is with pressure. And if you can I don't think it matters how many pass catchers you have. He's just going to have a hard time finding them open. And unless he's totally protected.
It's so crazy how important the offensive line really is, isn't it? It's it's just so crazy.
I think it's such a brilliant example of what happened in Detroit. Is because I don't think anybody looks at Jared Goff and what he brings and immediately goes, that's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Right? But you give him one of the best offensive line, probably the second best offensive line in the NFL, and a system that doesn't force him to win you games. And they were everybody had them booked for the Super Bowl. Everybody had them booked for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, all right, Sam Aiken checking in. He says, I watched all of Shador's games from Jackson to Colorado. He is mature beyond his years. Seriously, you are reaching. Unbelievable. I don't think. I
didn't talk about
we're-
his gameplay.
Yeah, we didn't even get to his game. I think we're just
Which I think is
talking about
phenomenal.
the headache that Deion would be. That's not to take anything away from him.
Nope.
Again, like
If his last name
can't-
was Smith, he'd be quarterback one in this class. It's not. It's Sanders, and that comes with baggage.
yeah, you
And
got
to
to
sit here and
factor it all
pretend
in.
like it doesn't is just asinine.
Yeah, you got to, and that's all we really got to, because we were actually talking about Deion, not really Shador so much. Just how do you get Deion involved? You draft his son. But yeah, I mean, look, it is gonna. There's a couple of X factor variables. His game aside, you have to look at the idea that he's never been coached by another man other than his father. Now, granted, assistant coaches, position coaches, those kinds of things. But his father has been with him his entire life. What will that be like? Now, maybe nothing, right? Maybe nothing, but you got to factor it in. And then again, like we said, the headache that is Deion Sanders for the Jets. Like, our whole purpose is the Jets, right? That's what we're here to talk about, Sam. And you look at, like, we're a lightning rod. Everything here is blown out of proportion. They love the national media, dude. They love, there's blood in the water. Anything that goes on that goes on here, it's 10 times the story if it was somewhere else. It's like you look at the Titans, I think it was. They drafted a first-round tackle a couple years back, 2021, 2020. First-round tackle. By the end of the year, they had to cut him. If that was the Jets, 1 year they had to cut him. If that was the Jets, we'd still be talking about it. You know what I mean? So it's just, you have to factor that in. Like I say all the time, like if I was the GM, one thing that I can bring to the table that nobody else is gonna, and they haven't yet, so that's my data to support this statement. You have to factor in that we are the Jets, that we are not the Baltimore Ravens. We are not the San Francisco 49ers. Like Saleh coming here, he knows what worked in Seattle and San Fran. Great. We're the Jets. Joe Douglas, he comes from Baltimore and then Philly after a year in Chicago. But it's like, so he's looking at, we are not those clubs. This is not that. We have more bad luck, more negative press. Like just everything that goes on here, you have to factor that in. And if you don't, you're setting yourself up for failure. And we see it time and time again. Maybe you can go in, maybe if you're with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can go into the season with an injured, what's the tackles for? I can't do it. Brown, the guy we had for a little bit, Dwayne Brown.
Oh, yeah.
And an injured Mekhi Becton at your bookend tackles. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's fine. The Jets were done. And we saw it. Brown was out. He played for 3 weeks. He was hot garbage. They benched him. Beckham was, injured every couple of weeks, whatever. So it's like, you just got to factor that in. So anyway, Shador Sanders, I watched another full game of his. I forget who was it against. Anyway, it was like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, dude, this guy's a fucking badass. You know what I mean? Like truly. But again, it's not just that with him. Yep. He has that other shit. So that's what we're really talking about.
He's got like if you want to talk positives, because a lot of people thought I was talking negative about him as a player. Absolutely not. He's got really, really good mobility. He's the only prospect in this draft class that can legitimately diagnose a defense pre-snap and like isn't going to get confused by like simple coverages and things like simple coverage alignments. Elite short and intermediate accuracy, like incredibly, incredibly high. But dude, his last name is Sanders. Like,
yeah, so you got to include that.
Yeah,
and then maybe you do include it and you go, not enough to get me to not take this kid. That's fine too. But if you don't even think about it, it's like when you draft D. Milliner with the 9th overall pick. After, like, think about this. So you take the greatest cornerback, arguably in NFL history, or among them, for sure, the greatest quarterback in Jets history. 2 years after the 2009 season, he was an amazing stud. 2, AFC championship games and all that shit. You trade him and then use the 9th overall pick, the pick that you traded him for, on a cornerback who's injured. and you don't factor in those things, like, not for nothing, the injury aside, we're replacing Revis with this kid. That is a mountain of pressure on top of him that's not present for anybody else. He's replacing Darrell Revis Island. So it's like, I didn't like the pick anyway. I don't draft in the top 10, top 20. I don't draft injured players. I don't do it. Now, I've never drafted anybody, to be completely clear. But if I did, Tigo, I would never draft a guy who's injured. I'm not doing that for the Jets because it's not going to get any better here. Again, Ravens, sure. Steelers,
It worked
Packers,
with the Rams.
Yeah.
They found Puka Nacua in like the 4th round because he was injured. And now he's a stud.
Well, that's the 4th round, 5th round. I'm willing
but he was a
that.
2nd round guy, right?
Yeah.
Who was going to go. I think what you're saying is like Derek Stingley was a great example because he was hurt. And so, like, there was no way, regardless of who you had as CB1 in that 2022 class, you wouldn't risk yourself on Derek Stingley because if he comes to the New York Jets, of course he would get hurt.
Wait a minute. Why are we reaching? What is this word reaching? We're factoring in something very real.
Like, it's already affecting. It's not just us.
Yeah, have you not watched Ricky and my buddy Sam and everything? Have you guys not paid attention the last few years? Where are the biggest stories? Negative shit. Where does it come from? It's about us. We're the team that every year, dude, there was one play. A quarterback ran into the ass of his lineman. It's called the butt fumble. On the anniversary of that play, every year, it's been 15 years, and they still got to show that play every year. Why? Because it's the Jets. We had a guy retiring from the Minnesota Vikings 2 weeks ago. What did he say from his fucking podium? The Jets suck. Why? Because we're not the Chicago Bears. We're not the Arizona Cardinals. We're not the Houston Texans. You have to and Deion Sanders is not just any old father of a player. He's not.
It'd be different. It'd be different if we didn't have everything that happened in Atlanta. If we didn't have his entire career of him being a diva, threatening to quit football and become a full-time, was it the Yankees, right? No, it was the Braves. Even it was like no one is arguing that he wasn't a good father. Like, I plan on doing that with my boys.
Yeah, hell yeah.
If I can coach them through every sport they go until they make it off into, I would do that. The difference is I wasn't an all-pro, Pro Bowl, arguably one of the best defensive backs in the history of the sport who was also a diva when he, they're like, to sit here and pretend like that isn't happening now, to sit here and look at the stuff that happened in Colorado, while positive, wasn't diva behavior. Come on, man. What are we doing here? Now you just like a guy and you're trying to ignore the bad things.
It's like we get so crazy. We get so rigid. We're just bringing in facts. If you don't agree, that's fine. And again, like if they evaluated, I think it was Eddie, he said that's looking through it through a lens of fear or something along, I'm paraphrasing. It's not fear, guys. You have to factor certain things in. It's like, you're buying a truck. It's like I bought a truck in Florida. I lived in Florida for a bunch of years. So I bought what's called a Florida truck, Tigo. Why? What do you think a Florida truck is?
No.
2-wheel drive. You don't want to know why? There's not a single hill in the whole state. So like 99% of my driving is going to be on flat roads. So why pay the extra $5,500 for 4-wheel drive? I don't need it.
For mudding GreenBean. That's why I didn't know what a Florida truck is. I need 4-wheel drive.
In Florida?
I'm getting a pickup truck next year, and I'm getting a 4-wheel drive because I'm going to the back roads to go mudding.
Well, there you go. See, I didn't do that. I didn't have that part of my life. But when I moved to Virginia, I had my Florida truck. It's beautiful. It was all midnight black. It was tonneau cover, black rims. It was beautiful. I got to Virginia. It didn't take me 30 days of the winter to go, I can't have this truck. I was slipping. I was even doing like the old thing, you putting weight in the bed and doing all the shit. But I was slipping. I was like, I can't have this here. This is for Florida. But so you gotta factor things. What are you scared? Or well, it's still a beautiful truck. It's like, no, dude. You gotta factor in the variables that can impact your decision. If you look at it all and you decide if Shedeur Sanders is there at 7, right? And you factored it all in, and his dad's going to let you, because I'm going to tell you right now, the Jets are on that list of teams that he doesn't want him to go to, evidenced by the fact that we have destroyed quarterbacks, young quarterbacks for it's like our pastime here. It's what we love to do more than anything else, is destroy young quarterbacks. So he's definitely not wanting his son to go across the country and sit with Woody Johnson and the Jets. No matter who we got to prove otherwise. But and Ricky's saying we suck because we can never get the quarterback position right. But it's not just the quarterback himself, Ricky. It's about what else is going on here. Like, look, Sam Darnold, if he was drafted to the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Kafka and Bieniemy and all those guys that were there, he's got or Kyle Shanahan, or he's got a much better chance. Here, he had the worst offensive line in football, right? He was here for 1 year of Todd Bowles and his third offensive coordinator, Jeremy Bates, by the way, Todd Bowles hired 3 offensive coordinators in 4 years, 2 of which were retired when he hired them. So we bring in Bates, who was retired for 2 years, hanging out in the woods. And we bring in, so Sam gets 1 year of him. Then he gets 2 years of Adam Gase, who didn't hire didn't feel like he needed to hire a quarterback coach and didn't really have an offensive coordinator. He had Dowell Loggins, who was really not an offensive coordinator. He was Adam Gase's, gopher. That's what he was. He hasn't been hired as an offensive coordinator since. So that tells you all you need to know. So Sam had no offensive coordinator, no quarterback coach. He had the 1 year McCown was here. That helped him his rookie year.
Yeah, it did.
But then he gets, traded to Matt Rule and all those guys. But again, you look at Zach Wilson. Now, I say all the time, I didn't like Zach Wilson as a prospect. And not because his mom, not because his dad, not because I didn't like him as a prospect. I said, this kid is gonna flop. Okay. He's got bust written all over him. We bring him in, same story. Bad offensive line, revolving door at supporting cast, 2 offensive coordinators in his time here. You know what I mean? Like it's like, that's the thing. I think our biggest problem, Ricky, while you're right, quarterback has been that we can't seem to hit on a quarterback, but the real problem here is coaching. It's organization. It's that we don't have an identity as an organization. Every couple of years, we're hiring a new staff to what? Change the culture. I thought we just did that. Joe Douglas said, we're going to have the best culture in all of sports. I like people who hate to lose more than they like to win. It's all great. It looked like we took a swing. It didn't work. And now what do we got to do again? We got to change the culture, Tigo. And now we're talking about bringing in Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. Again, if you like the player more than the potential problem, then that's fine. But if you're not even thinking about that shit, then you are a fucking fool, man. You got to think about that stuff.
The value of the player needs to outweigh the value of the drama.
Correct.
A player that did that for me was Malik Neighbors last year. Malik Neighbors, you knew you were going to get drama, but the talent level of the player was exceptionally high that you were willing to take a gamble on trying to deal with the drama. And while there was a lot of negative that happened in New York last year, Malik Neighbors was the only bright spot for the Giants last year. And I like Sanders, but I don't think Sanders is like,
yeah. Again,
I think someone said it in the chat where they were like, if he had Caleb Williams at talent, you take that risk.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Well, but here's the thing, like KG, he said, like, who said we're passing on him? You see how you guys get? It's crazy. Who said we're passing on him? We're talking about an interview that Deion Sanders had where he made some claims. And I'm telling you, he talked about there are teams that I will not let him go. If you don't think the Jets are on that list, then you are drunk, my friends. Who else could be on that list but
Want
us?
to be the Chargers when they drafted Eli? Like, because that's what we're staring down the barrel of.
Right. We're going to draft him, and they're going to hold. They're not going to play. He's going to say no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, you can talk about all the variables, man, without, it's like, we didn't say we're passing on. I don't want any quarterback in this class, period. But again, we're not saying that we pass on him because of his dad. We're talking about the subject. If you draw a conclusion, that's your own artwork, my friend. Let's see. We got Jake here, Tigo. Jake says, Shador is my nightmare. If it fails here, wait, I'm sorry. Let me start over. Shador is my nightmare if it fails here. I was having this convo before last season with my Giants friend when I thought we were winning a Super Bowl. The spotlight is bad for us and for him. Yeah, I mean, look,
I don't know
if you're not going to think about that shit, you just want to keep bringing in players and not have the infrastructure and not pay attention to all the extra, then all right, do that. But I think we should. You got to factor in that we're the Jets.
Yeah, I think you do have to factor in. I don't think that the spotlight is bad for him, though. He's had the national spotlight on him since high school because of who his father.
Yeah, he'll be fine with that.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns.
Colorado,
about that.
where was he from before he went to Colorado University? Where was
State.
Jackson State?
Right,
Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was an HBCU.
Yeah, so it's like I don't think that is necessarily the issue, but it's a different spotlight. Like there are spotlights. Did you know? Like I was talking to a couple of years ago when Mike McCarthy was fired. I had a really good conversation with a Green Bay Packers fan. And he was saying to me, essentially, we talked for like a good half hour. I didn't know the guy. We were just talking football. And he said to me in summation, well, they're on your team. Why wouldn't you cheer them on and support them? And if they have a bad game, you support them and you root them on. Dude, we're ready to throw Sauce Gardner. He had started his career with 2 All-Pros, defensive rookie of the year, 2 All-Pros, has an off year. Jets fans are out on him. We're not right. Like we're serious. Like we're intense, man. And we turn on our players on the drop of a dime. Garrett,
this is perfect. Look at the E-Boogie super chat. Like it's a perfect example of what you're saying.
Zach is a bum.
The next one. Zach is a bum, E-Boogie.
Because that's, although Zach is doing exactly what he needs to do in order to reclaim his career. He went to a legitimate quarterback coach, like a good offensive mind, sat on the bench the whole year, had no pressure to start. Now he's signing as a backup for another guy who's, look, you say what you want about McDaniel, but he's very respected offensive mind. Yeah. And he's doing it the right way. So if Zach does come out 2 years after he left the Jets, then he might have a shot. That's the way to do it.
Sean Payton was trying to keep him around. Like that's high praise from what will be a Hall of Fame head coach.
Yeah, he just wanted to pay him $86.50, and that's not going to cut it in the NFL today. Let me see E-Boogie's next comment. So wait,
because what you were talking about, like when you were talking about with your friend, is just like, look, like you were literally just talking about Sauce, and here,
yeah,
turned on him immediately. Yeah. 2 All-Pro seasons. He has 1 bad year because the whole team falls apart. Trade Sauce.
Not even a bad year. Like you look at the guy we just brought in, Brandon Stevens. He gave up 66 receptions or some shit last year. Sauce gave up 18 or something like that. I forget.
Yeah, it's okay. A bad year to the All-Pro years standard that he had. Like that's what I'm saying. Like most teams would be ecstatic if they drafted a corner in the first round and got the 3rd year of Sauce.
That's right.
Like they would be like, we got a guy.
And that's what this Green Bay guy was saying. Like, wait a minute. Like, what do you mean if he has a bad game or two, even a bad season? Why wouldn't you support him? He's your player. And it's like we had this disconnect. Now, I get it, but he couldn't understand, like, why we are so venomous. Like, why? Why would you do that? Don't you see it makes it harder?
Yeah.
And no, we don't see that. So, again,
look, we do see it. We just don't care.
Yeah.
I think that, people talk about it consistently, and I'm going to keep, this is a great comment by Jay because it falls into what I'm about to say. I don't care what anybody else says. There is no media market in the world, not just in the US sports. I'm talking about in the world, like the New York media. Like it just doesn't exist. This is a whole different game. Like you have to come prepared to deal with different challenges if you're going to come to New York. And we've seen it time and time again that some people can't handle it. Zach couldn't handle it. Sam couldn't handle it. Gase couldn't handle it. We thought maybe Salah couldn't handle it. Like
Salah couldn't handle it. He was telling secrets to Joe Beningo like he was his best buddy.
Yeah, they were just texting mid-game.
Yeah, and Joe Beningo's like, oh my God, this guy gave me more meat on the bone than anybody in the history of the NFL. I'm going to go on the radio and talk about it. Like, he don't know. And that's the thing. Like, they're treating New York as if it's San Francisco, as if it's Seattle. It's not.
Even if it's LA. Like, I'm sorry. The Rams and like even in Dallas, like none of those media markets are as intense as it is here in New York. It's just there isn't one. It's how it is. Like, that's why I have hope that Glenn might work out. He knows how to handle he's been through a rebuild in New York.
Yeah. He's been here.
Not just in Detroit, but here.
Aaron Glenn was on the 1-15, the 3-13, and the 1-15. Aaron Glenn was the cornerback that was the unfortunate recipient of the fake spike that sent us in a 2.5-year spiral. Do you realize, guys, that we were 6-4, I believe it was. We were playing the Dolphins for first place in the AFC East. Pete Carroll's lone season as our coach. We were playing for first place. We were beating them like 24-6 in the fourth quarter. They came back, beat us with the fake spike at the end of that run, and we did not win another game the rest of that year, and we won 4 games the next 2 years. That's how badly that fucking play kicked us in the nuts. Mm-hmm. That's how bad. Pete Carroll was fired. We hired Rich Kotite. He actually resigned, but then we got Parcells out of it because we hit bottom, Tigo. You got to hit bottom, and we haven't hit bottom in a while. Adam Gase was kind of a bottom, but
I think
anyway.
I think we hit bottom with the whole Salah, Rodgers, it all fell apart when, to me, like hindsight is 2020. You could see the beginning of the end when we fired LaFleur. That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and you know why? For Elijah Moore.
It wasn't even Elijah Moore. Zach Wilson also didn't like Mike LaFleur.
Yeah. He didn't like the way he talked to him.
Yeah.
He's mean.
And it's just like, do you remember that offense? Now that we can look back at it?
Listen, I broke down.
Other teams were stealing our plays. When was the last time we could say that?
I know. At that point, I had the time to really sit and break down film. And Dom and I would get together and we would look and we would do the beanbagger stuff. And dude, let me tell you something. Every single play, LaFleur was able to scheme guys open. Every play. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson wasn't able to find them. Now, some of it was the offensive line. A lot of it was Zach Wilson. He was he was terrible. Terrible. But yeah, and then we got rid of him. It's crazy. We bring in Hackett. And you know why we brought in Hackett. So it is what it is.
Like, my thing is like, imagine we don't fire LaFleur and we still go and get Rodgers. Because to me, he still probably pops his Achilles and it still fails and all.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dude, the Achilles ruined that. Totally. That's what it all was. It was the Achilles. It ruined the whole thing. It's crazy. We got 4 plays. JJ Humph says, Fields makes me mix Luke Falk. Yeah, I don't know. Dude, I don't know. That's a tough one. I get it. That's a tough one. I don't know if I buy that one. E-Boogie says AG can make any cornerback great, even better than Sauce. Well, I mean, we don't know that. Maybe.
I would look back at the last couple of years in Detroit, and
that's where you have to look and see.
And what was his name? I'm gonna go find his name just to be like, let's chillax on that. Like, I'm totally on believing, in our guy, but didn't they have? Oh man, he's not even on the team anymore. Who did they draft in the first round? where they traded for it was I don't remember. They traded him to Atlanta because he flopped so hard. It was a cornerback they drafted in the first round.
Ooh, Detroit? Yeah, that was Okunda. I think
there it is. Okudah.
Jeff Okudah.
Jeff Okudah.
Yeah, because he was he actually started his football career as a youth in the same town that me and Dom played football, and they immediately recognized it was the Parsippany Panthers, and they immediately recognized. His family said, "If we stay here, there is no career." So they got him out of there, went down south, and I think it was Texas, where football is taken seriously. Not in Parsippany, man. Parsippany Panther. Me and Dom C played for the same team. You know, the Parsippany Panthers. Oh my God, I was on a team. I was the wing back, and sometimes I'd return punts, or I'm sorry, kick return, and I'd play safety sometimes. But I was on a team. We didn't score 1 point all year. Not a point. Imagine the fun that was. See, I told you I know ball. See?
I never denied it or doubted it.
I'm just saying, if coming from a team I didn't score a point, maybe I don't know as much as I think. Can he teach Sauce to turn his head, Jake? So that's going to be interesting. But Sauce's whole game is that looking at the eyes thing. If Sauce just stops being so damn handsy, he got significantly more handsy last year. He got away with some stuff his first 2 years, but last year it was more egregious. Because look, Sauce was playing. Don't forget, guys, Sauce hurt his ankle week 1, and he just kept playing. We used to commend that shit. Like a guy is injured, he's banged up, and he's still playing. He's still playing, relatively high quality ball, not to his standards. We used to applaud that shit 15, 20 years ago. They were called Iron Men. We'd be like, yeah, man, this guy, he plays through the pain. Now we're like, you suck. It's a crazy world, Tigo.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy world. Anyway, just so you know, in summation, we're not saying pass on Shedeur Sanders because of his father. We're saying pass on Shedeur Sanders because it's not the year to take a quarterback. Now, if he's sitting there at 7, or Cam Ward for that matter, either one of them makes it, right? You got to ask the question, well, why did the 3 quarterback needy teams before you pass on him? There's that. But if he's sitting there at 7, my sincere hope is that they're using that vehicle as a mechanism to trade back.
I hope to God so.
But
can you imagine getting another first in 2026?
Oh, it'd be the best. But think about this. If Shedeur Sanders is sitting there at 7 and you took him and you got Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, and Shedeur Sanders, and you can sit him for a year, is that not a good situation? I think it's a very good situation. And then, if I'll tell you what happened. If you draft Shedeur Sanders with the 7th overall pick, you know what's going to happen? Justin Fields is going to ball out. And only then. Only when we have too many options will one of those options be good. That's it. All right, guys. So that's going to be the end of our show. Hung out a few extra minutes for you guys. 177 in here. I can't see how many likes we have, Tigo. How many likes we got on this video?
Let me refresh. It tends to update towards the end when we start talking about it. We have 68. Come on, there's 177.
Come on, that's what
we can get to 100.
Sam, Ricky, you guys got to hit the like button still just because we disagree about something. Again, I don't even think we disagree all that much. We're just talking about a specific side of the argument. But you got to hit that like button, guys. Give me the milk tongue. Come on now. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't up to this point. I don't know what would happen or what has to happen to get you guys to subscribe. But please do. It's the way that the channel grows, guys. It's the way that YouTube says, hey, this channel might be worth putting out there. You know what I mean? The link to Talking Jets with Tigo's channel is at the very top of the description of this video, everybody. So please show Tigo some love as well. Right below Tigo is the whole crew, the Jeremys of the world, the Frankies of the world, the Gunnys, the Doms. They're all in there because they're an incredible part of the Talking Jets network. Sam Aiken popping in, dropping 5 Talking Jets OnlyFans memberships.
TL, John, KJ131, Jake, and Ricky, New York Live. Say thank you to Sam Aiken for giving you a membership.
There you go. I'll do another crowd chant. Can you hear that?
I
Yay for Sam Aiken.
can. Drop your emotes in the chat now that you got them. It's a fun time.
That's right. Greg says, I've been subbed for years now. To this channel too? I know you're subbed to GreenBean. You're a great dude. But anyway, if you guys haven't subscribed to Talking Jets, it'd be greatly appreciated. I will see you tomorrow night with Dom C and Gunny for the Thursday Thick of It right here on the Talking Jets Network. As a matter of fact, 3 p.m. tomorrow, Matt O'Leary and Jeremy Jets Chaos will be here talking some Jets football with you. But 8 p.m. tomorrow, Dom C, Gunny, Gumby, and myself on the Thursday Thick of It over on GreenBean Jets Fan Network. Tigo, what do you got coming up, my friend?
On Saturday, I will be doing a live show with the great Connor Long, young, intelligent, and enthusiastic up-and-coming mind of the New York
Connor?
Jets YouTube game.
Connor's the real deal, everybody. He's the real deal.
Oh, yeah.
Love Connor.
Yeah, he's great.
Like JoJo Townsell says, you got to hit the like button.
Come on, we're 14 away. 14.
From what?
12. There's 12 of you and you haven't hit the like button. Come on.
Yeah.
Roll up a little bit, hit it. Let's get to 100 before the stream ends.
There you go. Well, with that all said, everybody, we love you. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. We're still here. Look at this.